increase that. You're able to burn more and more fat at those higher intensities of exercise. However, above that anaerobic threshold, you're probably not going to be able to exercise for a very long period of time. So there becomes a balance, and that's when we start talking about interval training, of getting above that anaerobic threshold and then spending some time below it, and getting above the anaerobic threshold and spending some time below it. Because if you were to spend your entire workout above the anaerobic threshold, it might last 5 or 10 minutes when you're shooting for a half an hour. I guess, does that answer your question, or what exactly was that?
I guess where I was headed with that was, because I came in late, I don't know what's been discussed, but somewhere along the way I would like to hear a recommendation. If you are going to do cardio for, let's say, an hour, how would you recommend doing it to burn the most fat?
Well, we will get into some interval training here, so we'll cover that a little bit more in depth, but I guess for now I'll just say I wouldn't recommend doing cardio for an hour.
Okay.
Almost ever. But some people like going for a ride for an hour, in the summer, or going for a swim or something like that, and certainly from time to time spending an hour in aerobic exercise is fine, but if you're getting the most efficient use out of your time, you don't really need to go for an hour, in my opinion.
And depending on what type of cardio it is, if you're up there for a full hour, chances are your cortisol levels may increase for that long period of time.
Especially if that's something, if you do that 5 days a week, you go and you hop on the treadmill, you're going to have higher cortisol levels than somebody who's not spending that much time, if all things were the same.
Right.
So you're going to suggest doing resistance training instead?
Resistance training and also interval training. We'll get into what that interval training means, but basically periods of faster or more intense cardio, something that you wouldn't be able to maintain for an hour, probably not even for 10 minutes. Really high intensity stuff, and then lower periods of rest where you're basically just recovering from that. You're still burning some calories, you continue to move, but it's really those high intensity portions that are the exercise when it comes to the cardio routine. Will doing crunches and sit-ups help me burn stomach fat? Does anybody know what that's called?
Started training.
So,
What's what called?
when you try and exercise one body part to
Spot reduce.
spot reduction, spot training, doing crunches to reduce belly fat, doing bicep curls to make your arms more defined. Some people will see some improvement maybe initially, that if they tone the muscle underneath, it may show through, it may give you a little bit more shape, but really it's not reducing any of the fat that's in that specific area of the body. Think of your body like a pool. There's a shallow end and a deep end, and your body stores calories in its shallow end and its deep end. We all have areas of our body that are leaner than others. As you start to drain that pool, as you start to reduce your body fat, the last place it's going to leave for most folks are those deep ends. We're always going to hold on to a little bit of fat on our rear end, a little bit of fat on our belly. As you gain fat, it's also going to gain in those problem areas in that deep end of your body. So when the pool is full at the beginning, you're going to lose a little bit of fat from the shallow end, a little bit of fat from the deep end. You'll lose a little bit of fat from your arms, a little bit from your belly, a little bit from your rear. And as the water levels go down, that can kind of be the last one to go. So if your deep end is that spot train, is that area you're trying to spot train, all you're doing is just basically burning calories that are going to be taken from all areas of the body. You do still want to train that area, like I said, to have a nice tone muscle that will start to show through and show some shape before the fat's completely gone. But just recognize that the amount of fat on that body part is not actually changing. Okay. Is the Biggest Loser realistic? How do they do it? How do they do it?
I don't know, but the game is on tonight.
pretty amazing result if you have 24-hour staff and 24-hour supervision and 24-hour motivation. Anybody could. Probably not to the extent that they do. There are some tricks there, you know, you see them all the time where they lost, they show on the commercial where somebody lost 23 pounds this week. Well, they didn't show that they gained 6 pounds last week because they drank a whole ton of water. You know, they throw the weights, they just throw up on the commercials the part where they see this huge number on the scale where they're cheating basically pays off. But I think the problem with shows like that is obviously, you know, it sets the bar higher than is realistic for the rest of us. But it's higher than it's realistic even for the contestants. We see a lot of the contestants who gain weight back because they get off the facility and they don't have the staff, they don't have the cooks, they don't have the trainers, they don't have the dietitians, and they really haven't learned enough or established enough of a habit in their regular everyday life to maintain.
I think one of the biggest things with the Biggest Loser one, though, is why else it's so unrealistic, and it says it right in the handout, but a week in our time is 12 days of shooting in theirs, and those are the numbers they're measuring. Yep.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Well, that makes a lot more sense.
Mm-hmm. There's been a few publications about it, and some of the contestants over the years have came out, and so.
There's no way they can do all that.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, so questions on myths. I guess that's the whole list of myths, but certainly there are a lot of claims, a lot of comments out there. So are there any that we wonder about? That sounds like a really good idea. I really enjoy that. Does it work? Is it a good idea?
Shake weight.
Shake weight.
Shake weight does not work.
It worked for the guy in the commercial.
He's working hard.
Great. Diet strategies.
Neckline thinner. See that one? The neckline thinner is that little tube you put on
Oh,
her neck.
yeah.
She just doesn't and smiles. Watch the inches disappear. I think we need to move on to HIIT training and
Okay.
Tabata if it's on there.
Okay, yep, interval training. So we talked about interval training, periods of intensity paired with periods of rest. Basically what we're looking for out of that, the main benefit or the largest benefit, aside from being able to burn a lot of calories in a short period of time, is that EPOC that we talked about, the EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. Basically your metabolism stays elevated for several hours, up to 24 hours.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was it?
Excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. You'll usually just see it abbreviated EPOC, but basically a lot of the studies on it have shown that your excess calorie consumption after your workout has completed can range anywhere from 30 to 150 calories. So 150 calories several times a week over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5 months, however long your goal and your work lasts. I mean, that's basically an extra pound lost just in that